Kibbutz Galiut. The kibbutz is lekabetz, to gather together. The modern Hebrew word kibbutz comes from this word, kibbutz.
Rabbi?
Yes.
I think your sound is your sound is.
Let me try.
Does that work?
Sound is not bad. The sound is fine.
Is that better?
I saw it.
It sounds a bit hollowy to me.
And now mine is bad.
I think maybe I just wasn't speaking loud enough.
I can't hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, everybody.
Kibbutz. A kibbutz is a place in Israel. You go to kibbutz. But it really means to gather together. So it's commune. I don't know exactly how they came up with the word to call it a kibbutz, but that's where it comes from. The kabetz is to gather together. Galiut means our exiles. This is the gathering of the people of Israel. So until now, we've really said 6 blessings, which, even though we prayed in a plural, we prayed for everyone, but the blessings are really very individual. Maybe you could argue the last one about blessing the year is not, but they could be taken in personal sense. Now we start the 7 blessings of national importance. This has to do with the nation of Israel. Of course, the nation is made up of the people and it affects us and it's for us, but it's not taking a personal view anymore, it's taking a national view. So we ask God, Tekah b'shofar gadol, blow, tekiah, right, is a shofar blast. So it's a command form, obviously in Hebrew it's a request. We ask God to blow b'shofar, with the shofar gadol, the great shofar. I'll come back and we'll explain it, but we have a tradition that the ingathering of the exiles will be initiated with a shofar blast, the great shofar. Lecheruseinu, for our freedom. Cherut, freedom. Okay, it's a very important word. To God, we're all over the world. Blow that great shofar for our freedom. Help us to gain independence. Cherut, freedom is independence. No one forcing you to do anything. V'sa nes. Now, most of us are familiar with the word nes to mean a miracle. Nesim are miracles. Nes is a miracle. Here, most of the commentators explain it means a banner or flag. A miracle is a type of banner. It's a flag. It's showing, oh, here's a demonstration, as it were, of God's power. So it's a banner, it's a flag. That's what every miracle is. And we have this idea that also through the tradition that there'll be a flag, there'll be a banner that will be raised, lekabetz, to gather together, galuyoi teinu, our exiles, wherever we are exiled, may we be redeemed. V'kabetzenu, and gather us together, yachad. Yachad from the word echad. Yachad means together, and gather us all together. Me arba kanafot haaretz, gather us together from the Arba 4.
Musical.
Kanfot, a kanaf is a corner. Kanafot haaretz means the four corners of
The earth.
the earth. Gather us together from the four corners of the earth. And then we finish Baruch. God, we understand you are the source of all existence, blessing. Atah, you are Hashem, who is the master of all, who was, who is, and will be. Mekabetz, who gathers. Mekabetz, who gathers. Nidchei Amo Yisrael. The pushed ones, the shunned ones, to be a nedach. A nedach is someone pushed out. The pushed out of Amo, his people Yisrael, his people Israel. So this is the first blessing that we say on a national level. Let me see if I can get it.
It gathers everyone.
All on the same page. How do I do that? Oh, there we go. Okay, let's look at it in total. Oh, did I lose it again? No, there we go. Fine. Okay, let's go over what it's saying now. Okay, so again, it's very interesting to note it's almost a repetition. It's amazing. I never knew this. That in almost every blessing, there's some type of repetition which needs to be understood. There are two levels always. So the first one is blow the great shofar for our freedom and raise the banner to gather in our exiles. Excuse me. And then we say, "V'kabetzenu yachad ma'abu kanfota," and then gather us again from together from the four corners of the earth. And we finish off, blessed are you, and that's the ending. Blessed are you, God, who gathers in the pushed ones of the nation Israel. So there are a few themes over here which will help us to understand what is the difference between this first part and the second part. We just ask God to blow the shofar for our freedom and raise the banner to gather in our exiles. What is this gather us together from the four corners? So there are a few themes over here. The first theme is that it's really from the end, we find it, it's the theme of the blessing, but it's very clear from the end of the blessing. Amo, blessed are you, God, who gathers in the pushed off Amo Yisrael, his people Israel. And as this is the first blessing on a national scale, we speak to God in terms of God, the Jewish people are your people. We're back to this chosen people issue, concept. The most basic covenant that we have with God is, God, you are our God and we are your people. And that's that if you look in the Torah, that's the covenant that God made with Abraham. He said, Abraham, I'd like to make a covenant with you. Abraham said, sure. And they sealed the deal. And God said, I'll be your God and you'll be my people. You and your children after you will be my people. And that's what happened at Sinai. That's what happened at Sinai. We entered into this covenant with God that I'm the Lord your God who took you out of the land of Egypt. And now we are his people. We will have no other gods besides him. He is our God. And when you look at the second parsha of the Shema, it says, and if you will listen to my mitzvot, I will give rain in its time, and there'll be much blessing in the field, and you'll be able to eat and be satisfied. And should you be seduced after other gods, so then you'll be thrown off the land. Right? God says, I'll stop the heavens, and eventually you'll be thrown off the land. There's a beautiful Rashi there. Rashi says, and I will cause it to rain in its right time. So Rashi, the commentator, says, you've done what you need to do. God will do what is upon him, what he needs to do. Meaning that in a simplistic way, because it's definitely more complicated than I'm about to say it, but in a simplistic way, and sometimes it is that way if other things don't get involved, the well-being of the Jewish people is symbolic of our relationship with God. That's the covenant. God says, you be my people, you follow in my ways, you keep my statutes, you live in the way that I want you to live, you be an example to the entire world, and I will bless you. So if you want to know, take a big view of all the, I don't know how many Jews there are in the world. Linda, you care for all of them. How many are we? 14 million?
Just shy of 14 million.
Okay, just shy of 14 million. If you want a list of all of them, Linda davens for them every day. So we're small, but there's a lot of people here. How well are we doing in our covenant to God? So one way to look at it is to look at how well are we doing in a physical sense. That's how is God responding to us? Now, this is very important in terms of this blessing, because for almost 2,000 years, the Jewish people did not have the land of Israel. It was under control of other rulers, countries. We now have the land of Israel. 1948 was an incredibly significant change. Can you imagine all the people that poured out their souls and their tears and shed their tears for this blessing, and then only in 1948 to come back to the land and the Jewish people given autonomous rulership over the land is quite incredible. There was at the time, and there continues to be, some discussion about, is this happening, right? Are our prayers starting to be answered? Was that the shofar gadol? And maybe it could be taken literally. Maybe there would be something literal about it. Maybe it's figuratively. The shofar gadol means everyone hears something. Maybe that declaration of the UN. That's probably one of the few things. That declaration of the UN to acknowledge a Jewish state was a shofar, a great shofar that went around the whole world. Who didn't hear about that? What an unbelievable declaration. So that it very much could be that we are living through the fulfillment of this prayer being answered. Just to show you, there's this prayer, and often the truth is, this is true for all the prayers. They are based on something in our in the Torah. Oops, I'm going to take off that picture then. So here we have in Isaiah, Isaiah, he was a prophet of doom, but he was also very much the prophet of hope. And Isaiah says, and in that day, or on that day, a great ram's horn shall be sounded, and the strayed who are in the land of Assyria, and the exile and the expelled who are in the land of Egypt, these are obviously examples in his time, shall come and worship the Lord on the holy mount in Jerusalem. So, and we mentioned this exact verse in our Yom Tov prayers, in the Musaf of the Yom Tov.
Reza,
That's where we get it from, that this great horn shall be sounded.
Rabbi,
Yes.
but in 1948, we did not have Jerusalem.
So it's the beginning of the process.
Oh.
It's the beginning of the process. This is not, obviously, this is not happening, this in one day. Maybe it could. It doesn't look like it is happening this way. It's an evolution. It's a process. So that's why some people, some rabbis, are not so quick to jump onto saying, yes, look, it's happening. Maybe not. It's very hard to know. Or, we have our scripture, we have the words from the prophets who are ancient, and we have what's happening today. God doesn't, we don't merit, we're not close enough, or it's not meant to be that we have prophecy in our time. So it's very hard to know exactly what is happening. There's a I don't know where it came. It's said in the name of a few people, but they say, I'm not sure what the saying goes like this, that big people will say very little, and little people will say very big things. Right? It's hard to. You've got to be humble. One has to be humble and say, I don't know. There was one great rabbi, Rabbi Cook, who was the first chief rabbi of Israel, who was very outspoken about his opinion that the formation of the state was the beginning of this redemption process. He was not, I would say, widely accepted. He definitely developed a following. There's a very strong following in Israel today. Many people call themselves Dati Le'umi, which means religious Zionist. Right? The religious Zionist means we see Zionism as part of our religion. We see this as a developmental stage in what Judaism is and what Jewish history means. So I guess we all have to work out where we are on that and to how much we see that. Okay, so so that's the nation. That's the importance. One more point, when on the Seder, at the Haggadah, we have the four children. We have the four children, the four sons, and one of the sons is the evil son, the Rasha, the wicked son. And what do we answer the wicked son? We say to the wicked son, had you been there, you would not have been redeemed. And what's our answer to the wicked son? The wicked son, he has taken himself apart from the community, apart from his family, and he points a finger and says, what is this? What is it that you are doing? What are you doing? Not what are we doing? He sees himself as separate. And we say to him, well, be careful, because if you separate yourself, you are, this religion, this it starts as a nation, and then you find yourself as an individual in it. Parenthetically, I think that's the way we should all think about ourselves. You know, how do I, as an individual member of this nation, make a contribution? That's maybe the most important question we could ever ask ourselves. How do I, as an individual with my own talents, blessings, challenges, but part of this great nation, make a meaningful contribution? So we say to the Russia, we say to the wicked son, you know, be careful. You know, you can criticize, you can ask, you can scream and shout, you know, as someone once said, you know, what's the Jewish people? Are we a religion? Are we a nation? They said, no, we're a dysfunctional family. That's what we are, right? You're part of the family. Acknowledge that. So that's why, right? Part of why we have this first one. God, blow the shofar for our freedom. Raise the banner that we might all see and be gathered back from our exile. God, the purpose, we recognize the purpose of this, ingathering, the purpose of this redemption is to bring us back together. Now, this is a sticky point for what we see on the ground. The second temple, we are told, was destroyed because of sinat chinan, a breakdown in society. In fact, they were very frum. During the second temple, people were very religious outwardly, right? They learned Torah, they were very careful with the mitzvot. In fact, they didn't even understand why this calamity was happening to them. Until the prophet explained to them, or they worked out from the prophecies, because they had the sense of unity amongst the nation had broken down. And they had this thing called sinat chinam, which means worthless hatred. Just, you don't like the other person because he's another. That was not acceptable. And God says, no, that's not my point. My point in you being a nation and you being my nation is that you work together. Yachad, you have to be, the purpose of this ingathering is that you are all together. This is, of course, this is an issue. You know, Israel stands as a very divided country. There's unfortunately not that much yachad. There's not that much togetherness. This is a challenge for our times. This is a challenge for our times. Is what can we do to bring about more unity, more respect, more understanding, more sense of togetherness in Israel. That's the truth is that this big project that I'm working on, the Ten Commandments project, was spurred by that, because Shalom Schwartz, who founded the project, was very much looking for something that could act as a catalyst to more unity. And he felt that, the Ten Commandments, most people really acknowledge them, and even if they don't know what they are, claim to adhere to them. But it's at least there's a place for a conversation where, instead of discussing what separates us, how we're different, we can talk about what unites us and our values and what we really stand for, what we want. So much of it is the same. That could create a tremendous amount of unity. Okay. We we mentioned the shofar, and I told you that the shofar is something, whether we take it literally or figuratively, it comes from the prophet. There actually are, it's interesting, the shofar as a concept plays an interesting part in Jewish history. The first shofar we know was at the Akedah, when Abraham, the binding of Isaac, when Abraham's about to sacrifice Isaac, and the angel calls out and says, Abraham, Abraham, stop, don't do that. So he stops, he lifts up his eyes, and he sees that there's a ram caught in the thicket by its horns. And the Midrash says that that ram Abraham sacrificed, but those horns were used. When you look at the verses at Har Sinai, the giving of the Torah, the Ten Commandments, it says very explicitly, and they heard a loud shofar. There was a very loud shofar blowing at Sinai, and the Midrash says that was the left horn and the smaller horn. And then, further on in history, when they came to capture the land, and they went to capture Jericho, they went around the wall 7 times. Eventually, they blew shofar. They blow the shofar. They blew shofars in order for the walls to come down. And then, eventually, we have this prophecy that in the times of the final redemption, the coming of the Messianic age, it will be ushered in through the shofar. So the shofar plays an interesting role. And of course, every year at Rosh Hashanah, the shofar, we blow the shofar. The resounding concept of shofar is freedom. The shofar is that which allows for expression. We blow through it our breath, and it gives it expression, right? Free expression, believe it or not, is a very Jewish idea, right? That's what freedom is. Freedom means that you can freely express yourself. The problem with free expression is that people think they could express any part of themselves. But of course, no, we have 2 parts of ourselves, and it's the higher, godly, the Tselem Elokim, the image of God that we're meant to express. So, and that's a calling. It's a calling on every Rosh Hashanah to come back to that and to remember that's what life is about. So that's this theme of the shofar going through Jewish history, and that's the cherut, the independence that we ask for, and with that independence, of course, we ask God to help us to unite as a people, this is the beginning of the redemptive process. Of course, for us, we don't have Adam. Adam sometimes joins us from Israel. It's a big question, I think, for everyone that lives in the diaspora. Why do we live in the diaspora? We have an opportunity to live in Israel. I'm sure we all have great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, people that would have given anything to go live in the land of Israel. Now, of course, they were living in, the abject poverty and persecution in some crazy country. Baruch Hashem, we live very comfortably. But I think, it's a question we should all ask ourselves. We have the land of Israel today. This process seems to have started. On a individual level, there are many reasons why we might live in the diaspora. As someone in a class of mine yesterday said, an Israeli who lives here in Baltimore, said, you know, we are here making more money than our, you know, let's face it, life is difficult. Life is harder, not hard, harder in Israel, daily life. That's on an individual level, but on a national level, you know, we're really not watching center court here. We're on the outskirts. We're in the diaspora. Is there a way to rectify, to do something, even if we're not going to move tomorrow? Yes, very much so. I think it behooves us to think about our relationship to Israel, our support for Israel, and again, what we as individuals, part of this great nation, how we could contribute to the well-being and the increased settlement and establishment and thriving of the state of Israel. So again, lehit palel, to pray, the Hebrew is reflexive. It's to judge oneself. After every prayer, you got to stop, and you know it's not so easy. You spend all day doing this, but it's now and again, it's a good idea to stop and say, what did I just pray for? Where am I vis-a-vis the prayer? You know, what am I doing am I doing my part? I'm asking God for a lot. Am I doing my part? Okay, enough talking for today. Lovely seeing you all. Have a lovely day.
I have two important questions. I'm going to throw them out, and you can answer them anytime you want.
Okay.
Number one, why at the end does the prayer say, why doesn't it just say, you are master of all who gathers his nation Israel? What is the significance of the pushed ones of?
Okay.
I never heard that before, and I don't even know what it means.
Okay.
The second thing is, I understand what you're saying about Israel, and believe me, you know how I feel. But there's even as big of a problem here in the diaspora about working together. And I question if the religious are reading this blessing 3 times a day, and they do not, I mean, I think of Yitz Greenberg. Does anyone know Yitz Greenberg? All he cares about, you don't know Yitz Greenberg? Nobody? Oh my gosh, he's amazing. But all he cares about is Klal Yisrael, but he's an Orthodox Jew, and the Orthodox community have ostracized him because he is so into the oneness of one people.
Okay. So let's try. Was he from Asia? Who's Yitz Greenberg? Not from Asia Torah.
Klal. He was in Klal. Do you know Klal?
No.
He has written books. He is one of the most incredible men. He's up there with, I mean, and I don't just say this lightly, he is up there with Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks.
Uh-huh.
He just spews words of love and blessing and beauty and Klal Yisrael. Let me just say one last thing. When we studied with him in Wexner, my husband started laying tefillin again.
Well. Okay, so to answer your first question, which is a little easier than your second one, it comes from, where are we? Oops. Okay, let me show you again. Yeah. The Hebrew over here in this prayer comes from this prayer of Isaiah, and it says, the Hanidochim, I'd have to get the word, but I think it's the strayed who are in the land of Israel and the expelled who are in the land of Egypt. So it comes from the word of the prophet, And therefore the prayer is relating back to the prophecy. I would imagine, this is my own thought, that what we are saying is, God, even the ones who feel pushed out, even the ones who maybe feel ostracized, should be brought back together. Meaning, even, no Jew left behind when it comes to the redemption. Linda, in terms of, the religious, the non-religious working together, this is the challenge of our generation. And I think we have a huge challenge. People are very defensive. People are trying to hold on to what they have. They're not open to how could we work together? How could we understand each other better? No, our way is the right way. You can't, and it's going to take many Yitz Greenbergs to break down these barriers. It doesn't help, it's not even a Jewish issue anymore. It became an American issue. How split this, what's it called? What politics? Was not coming to me. But the divisiveness and it's become a worldwide phenomenon, and this we have to.
I understand, but we're saying this prayer 3 times a day. I don't understand how this does not at least have some kind of influence or
penetration. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we have to share the class with all the people and say, listen, just concentrate on this one word. Yachad. It's a good message. You know what? We can all start. And when we hear people being bigoted and not willing to think of the bigger picture, you can say, hang on a second. In our prayer, we say, Kabetzenu Yachad, we're meant to be together.
But it's got to start from somewhere. It's got to start from someone.
Here we go. We'll start here and now. The 7 of us. What can we do? We have to pray for it and work on it. It's an issue. It's a challenge of our generation, for sure.
I don't know if my Rabbi Wahlberg, who is world renowned for his sermons, gave this Shabbos one against the Haredi that really upset my husband and me. How
Really?
they're and you just can't spew against any one of our people. That he was I should send it to you. This is another touch point. How they're not following the laws, and they're having these weddings, and they're not wearing masks and blah blah blah. Yes, yeah, okay, but who are we to judge? And why would we ever say one thing? And I love my Rabbi. Rabbi Wahlberg is everything to me, but I still don't feel we have the right or who made us to judge, and who made us the ones to criticize.
You don't speak about family members like that. And whether we like it or not, these are family members. That's where
I couldn't agree more.
That's where it starts and ends.
Amen.
We are not on this earth to judge. That is not what we're supposed to do.
God's very good at doing that.
Amen. Yeah. We've got the same in South Africa.
What?
We've got the same problem in South Africa. Not Haredi, but certain members are doing what they want to do, and that's where this bad thing is.
You'll never know the reason why they're doing it, and you're not allowed. Everybody gets up in the morning and says the Modani, and everybody says it's going to be anyway. I'm very upset, as you can tell.
But they're the super spreaders, unfortunately. Doing that, they're super spreading.
I have to. Yes, but Barry, we have to.
Look up.
They are family. Every Jew is family, and you got to treat them that way and relate to them that way. However far away you think they might be. Okay. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank
Rabbi.
you.
Thank you.
God bless. Bye.
Bye.